what we're going to do in this video here is show you how to install a rigid RDS SR Pro light bar in an AT4X. Takes a little bit of custom bracketry, so we're going to do that on this, another AT4X. So I'm Fritz, the Alaskan Mod Master. As you can see, we've already installed some Warren Xeon 10S synthetic winches, which this truck was not made to fit. But we've got those both mounted up, and they work great. Now we're going to put a light bar in Mark's. Check my other video for the other install of the bar. Okay, here's Mark. He's pretty excited about tearing into this grill here. So first step, get off the grill. So I'll show you a few of the steps along the way. We'll try to keep it brief. Okay, so the first step is you got to remove this handle, and then you got to remove this shield that goes across here. And then the hardest part of this whole process is getting off these trim pieces on the corner here. And you see we have a light up here shining down, and you can kind of see where there's these tabs, and you need something like this to go in here and free up the little locks. Okay, so you got to wedge it in there, and then you can pop them out. So here we've popped out the bottom three. We just have one to go there. So we're gonna do that on both sides. Got it wedged in there, and Mark is gonna try to pop it off. Maybe this thing, let me wedge it a little harder. There we go. It ain't easy, and it's scary. You feel like you're gonna break something. All right, so now we have the entire grill off. We didn't have to mess with the wheel liner. We were just able enough to pull this out far enough to get the grill off. Unplug this. To unplug this, you first have to push down on the red and slide it out. We'll slide out the red little tab and then push down and separate there. That's for the camera up front, and this is the windshield wiper. Or there's like fluid that sprays on the camera there. You gotta unplug that. So right in there, we take out those two screws, and then Mark is mounting a bracket that we custom made. Here's the bracket. I'll give you measurements and dimensions for that. It fits perfectly right in here. Mounts on those two bolts, and then that's where your light bar mounts right there. And I'll give you the dimensions of everything in a minute. So
and how do you get this, screw this one in?
Well, you just make sure that washer, so I modified the washer there so it's flat against that bracket because it's pretty tight. You can see I ground it down.
How do you get a wrench in there though?
Oh, it's tough. All right, so we got our two brackets installed on both sides, one right there, and we just temporarily installed this little baffle on both sides. Oh, he hasn't installed it, so there's the bracket on that side. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark where the bracket hits the baffling right here. With your friendly little Sharpie, we're gonna make a line, and then we're gonna cut a hole right through here. Okay. All right. So here's a picture of that baffling with a little cutout. For the mount. All right. So Mark has put the brackets on as prescribed by Rigid for the RDS SR Pro 40-inch light bar. Okay. So we have the brackets, so it's projecting forward. We have the cable coming out on the right side of the vehicle. Okay. Now we got to modify the grill. To do this, we're going to attack this center portion right here. Okay. So we're going to take out all of these bars, vertical and horizontal. And this is the tool we're going to use. It's a simple dual oscillating saw with a pretty fine little blade on it. All right, now we're going to take a angle grinder, sanding disc on it, and we're going to put a radius on the inside of the grill. So come all the way across. Try not to melt the plastic too much. So move it around so you don't melt it. We're going to grind all the way back to this line. See the line right here coming across?
Or it's gloss black.
Yeah, and then we're going to fill in all these gaps with JB Weld. I'll show you that in a minute. All right. after a substantial amount of grinding, test fitting this bar in here, we removed this wiring loom so that it wouldn't get caught in my grinder. We created a nice radius on the inside there where it's almost flush.
Let's show what it looks like here.
Pick it up. Got it?
No, you gotta tip it.
Tip what?
Tip the whole thing up.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we were looking at there. We got it pretty well radiused in there. There's a lot of grinding there. Not much of a gap. It just takes a lot of time fitting, grinding, fitting and grinding. All right, so we smoothed everything up in here. Put a little tape in there and then did a little plastic bonding. So there's a few little notches that show up there you have to kind of fill in. We sanded the whole inside. What we used to fill the little gaps there was this JB Weld plastic bonder. Good stuff. Sets up pretty quick. A lot of sandpaper. So, almost ready for install. We're gonna smooth out that JB Weld and then paint the inside there with some gloss black paint. Okay, we got a trial fit here. So, we got a spacer. I'll give you the dimensions of what that spacer is right there. A little 1/4 inch stainless steel bolt.
It's not a 1/4 inch though.
That is a 1/4 inch.
That spacer?
No, not the spacer. Spacer's like 9/16 or something. Yeah. But that bolt is a 1/4 inch. But that's how it looks. Now we're gonna drill a hole right here to run the wire. All right, so we drilled a nice little hole right here. You can see that nice little hole for our cable. It comes out back this way, and we'll wire that. You guys can all figure that out, but you can see our spacer. We're gonna tighten that down. There's no impact on the shutters. Very low profile, very simple. Solid mount, 3/16 inch angle, steel. Nice little hole through the baffling there. So it shouldn't affect anything. All right, so mounted the relay right there. We took out all these little pops and we went just through the plastic with a whole bunch of zip ties. We're gonna put those little plastic pop rivets back in there. They're kind of oval, so they actually fit. So the wiring loom comes around this way. I'm gonna connect this with the light bar, which ran right down here next to the fuse box. Through here and down and right around. We drilled a little hole right here. Really nice hole.
Step back one.
And so our light bar is rock solid in there. We're gonna go double check the aim of it beforehand. The weed whacker line there, so I can fish it. That's my fish line. I'm gonna go through that little nipple right there. I used a scalpel blade to cut a hole in it. And then we're gonna fish the 3 wires. Part of Rigid's thing here. Those 3 wires, the red, black, and purple. Or blue. Yeah, through that one. All right, so I got some wire pulling lubricant here that I've been using for a long time. I got my wire loom hooked to my weed whacker cord, which is down in there, and Mark's gonna pull it through. Go ahead and pull it through there, Mark. Okay. So it's going right through that little nipple down there. If I can get it to focus. All right, go and pull her on through, Marcus. Feed it. Weed whacker cable works pretty good. It's kind of stiff. Ease it up there a little bit. Okay, got to pull a little harder. So I used electrical tape. Oh, pop through nicely. Done. Pull her on through. Nice. Okay, that's good. Keep it kind of slack there. We'll tighten down all these zip ties in a minute once we're all set up. Okay, we're wrapping up the wiring. We got our wiring coming across here. We zip tied it across. Bring it around. We hooked into our wire to the light bar here. We're going to tap in right where our winch hooks in. Negative right there. That's the negative right there. And then we hooked into this 400 amp service right here for the positive. And you can see our wire going through that little nipple down there. I'm not even gonna bother putting anything on that because it looks pretty watertight. Okay, we just came back from a road test. That's the difference right there. Okay, off, on, it's like night and day. So now we can put her all back together. She's in perfect position. All right, so we just finished taping off, smoothing out the inside of the grill there, where we cut out the insert, and we sprayed it with this Rust-Oleum paint primer, high gloss. Worked pretty good. It's such a small area that you won't be able to see it eventually anyway. Okay, we're ready to go back on with the grill here, and just a couple points here. Just make sure that these baffles are in the right position here when you're doing that. We got everything buttoned up here pretty nice. We shortened the winch cable there. The wiring for the light bar's all up there with the relay up that way. Looks sweet. Okay, Marcus, set her in there. So this is that spot that you gotta worry about, is that baffle. All right, so we'll button that up. So the grill goes on first. There are 4 screws on top, okay? There's 1 on each side down here, and 1 in the middle. Okay, don't forget to hook up your front camera on this side, on the passenger side, and the washer line right here on this side. Pretty simple connections there. That one you just squeeze. All right, and so once you got the grill pop back on there, and making sure that that baffling is on the inside down there, now the next step is to put the trim piece on here, because it has a lip that's going to go up underneath the side trim panels here. So, but we're going to first put these 3 bolts on, 1 on the bottom here, 1 here, and 1 on the other side, and then the 4 on the top. Those are all clipped on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And she's going back together. That's looking pretty darn good.
Where is that?
Nice and centered in there. All right, so we got the grill back in now. We got the 4 bolts on top, bolt on either side. We left these pieces loose to begin with. We got this lower trim piece in that's hiding one of the bolts down here. Okay, now it's just to put these back on both sides, and the rest of the baffling up here. All right, there it is. The final. Looks pretty sweet. AT4X 20-inch or 40-inch rigid RDS SR Pro light bar installation, and I'll give you some dimensions on the brackets you have to fabricate to put that in there. All right, so here's the finished product. That was mine. This Mark's RDS SR Pro 40-inch rigid light.
So you can see the curve.
Nice curvature, looks factory. 2 AT4Xs with rigid light bars. Can be done. A lot of work. Might get a few scratches.
6 to 8 hours.
And I'll provide the bracket information here in a second for you. All right, I made a little template here out of cardboard that has all the measurements on how to make these brackets. So it's made out of 3/8 inch steel. I cut it out of a piece of angle iron that was already bent like that. You need one that looks like that, and one that looks like that, mirror image. Okay, those are the 2 mounting holes there. We used the farthest point out to mount our light bar. Here are the measurements. I'll go over them. On this distance here, 60 millimeters, 27 here. This is 55 millimeters to the outside, meaning this side of the 90 degree, okay? And then the height here on this side is 50 millimeters, measured from the outside of that 3/8 inch steel. Up to this angle, it has to be angled a little bit to fit inside the bracket. Those are both 12 millimeters approximately. Total width here is 23 millimeters. This part of the bracket, the vertical part, from the outside on this side, from this point outside to the top is 55 millimeters. this side here is 70 millimeters from the outside again, where my thumb is, to this point, 70 millimeters. That's 60 millimeters, that's 12 millimeters, 60 again there. So you get the picture. You got one bracket like that, two mounting holes for the existing factory holes, one hole, and I drilled 1/4-inch holes for that, for the light bar, and then mirror image. So this would be the driver's side bracket. This is the passenger side bracket. And then I wrote 9/16 inch spacer. That's what sits on here. 9/16 of an inch going up to the rigid light bar. And that's a wrap. Took a little fabricating, but if people are really interested in getting these brackets made, if a whole bunch of people demonstrate interest, I could maybe have a handful made and I could sell them to you guys. All right, bye.